This video is part of the tutorial series created by the Odum Institute for Research in Social Science at UNC Chapel Hill, and will demonstrate how to manage permissions and restrictions. Within a Dataverse, there are multiple ways to manage permissions and restrictions. I'll first demonstrate how to set permissions at the Dataverse level, and then show restrictions and permissions at the dataset and file level. If I want to set permissions within my Dataverse, I would click on the Edit button and then select Permissions. The first type of permissions you can set up for your Dataverse is defining who can do what within the Dataverse. If you click on the Edit Access button, you will see the various options. So first you decide who can add what to the Dataverse, from requiring everyone to be given access, so a closed Dataverse, to a completely open Dataverse where anyone can add datasets and dataverses. You then decide what is the default role for individuals adding datasets, either a contributor who can create datasets, but they must be submitted for review and published by a Dataverse administrator or curator, or a curator who has full editing and publishing rights. To assign specific roles to individuals or groups within your Dataverse, you would click on the Users Groups tab and click on Assign Roles to Users Groups. The roles you can assign to users or groups are outlined under the Roles tab, which details the permissions each role has, from an admin who can do pretty much everything to a member who can view unpublished dataverses and datasets and download files. Now let's take a look at how you restrict and give permissions within a dataset. And I'm going to show this on the dataset that I created and published in the previous Publishing Datasets video. Within a dataset, if I want to add restrictions to files, I would first select the files I want to restrict, and then click on Edit Files. And now I see all the ways I can edit a file, from deleting the file to modifying the file level metadata and restricting the files. So I will click on Restrict. Now I am prompted to add some terms of access so people know what they need to do to gain access to these files. And I can also click the Enable Access Request button if I'd like users to be able to request access through the Dataverse. So I will put in Complete Data Use Agreement and click the Enable Access Request button. So now you can see a lock appears beside the restricted files. It is green for me because as an admin of my Dataverse, I have access, but everyone else will see a red lock. To grant permissions for my dataset and files, I would go back up and click on the Edit button and then mouse over Permissions. At the dataset level, I can give individuals certain roles, just like at the Dataverse level. So, if I want to give a user access to download all restricted files within a dataset, you can give them the role of File Downloader. To give access to individual restricted files, I would need to go back to Permissions and select File. Then, from this screen, I can grant access to users and groups by adding the user group name here, and then selecting the file that I want to grant the user access to. One other thing I'd like to mention is that in order for these new restrictions to be in place, I would need to publish a new version of my data set. However, since the files within the first published version were not restricted, users will always be able to access these unrestricted files under the Versions tab. So if you need to restrict files, it really should be done prior to publishing a data set. So thanks for watching, and to learn more, check out our next video on customizing your Dataverse.